Good morning, and I'm very happy to be with you today to talk to you about this transformation program that we think is quite special and that we want to share with others. So, as we mentioned, I am a director of Saint-Gobain University, and I'm responsible for our digital transformation learning programs, of which the DNA Academy is clearly the most important program. Let me tell you a little bit about Saint-Gobain so that you understand the context in which we're working. So Saint-Gobain is a 365 or 55-year-old company created by Louis XIV. We design, manufacture, and distribute materials and solutions for the construction marketplace and also for other industrial high-performance areas. And so our business breaks down into these two broad groups: high performance materials, which is a global business serving global customers, and then our regional businesses, which are the construction products and solutions. Today, we're about a 40 billion euro a year company with 170,000 employees working in 70 countries around the world and with 800 manufacturing facilities. And that number is actually understated because at some of our facilities, we have 3 and 4 plants running, manufacturing different products. So it's quite a diverse and large entity to deal with, and that explains some of the challenges we have in deploying a program like the DNA Academy. So let me tell you about the DNA Academy in a nutshell, one slide to kind of pique your curiosity. So we have been doing data and analytics within our plants and across Saint-Gobain for many years now. We have hired a large number of data scientists working at our research facilities around the world, and they've been working with the people in our plants to deliver solutions that reduce energy consumption, reduce the generation of CO2, reduce waste in general in the manufacturing process to make us more efficient. But the challenge is that these projects have been done by experts coming in and doing the project and leaving. And when they're gone, nobody in the plant really understands what was done or can maintain it. And very often these solutions never really make it into production. And so we knew that we needed to find a better way. And what we needed to do is to build a capability with the engineers in the plants today so that they could use these new techniques of machine learning to get value out of the data that they're working with on a daily basis. So it was a program to upskill the people in the plants. And so naturally, we began as a training program, but we realized to be successful that this really needed to be a transformation program to change how Saint-Gobain was working within our plants and across the different businesses, the different entities such as research and IT that we'll be talking about. As a result, our plants are able today, those who have gone through the training, to deliver these projects on their own faster and with a better ROI than they had been able to do with more traditional techniques. Today, 2 years into the program, we've trained over 1,800 people, and we're looking to do that same amount over the coming year. So an important, successful program that goes to the heart of the challenges that all of us are facing today, which is getting value out of data. So I want to talk to you about what is the DNA program, how we organized to deliver it, the results we achieved, and where we're going with it in the future. And then I'll take a step back and talk more to L&D and HR about the lessons we learned from building this program and the lessons about corporate learning in general. So what is the DNA Academy? So we all are confronted by the same opportunity and challenge, which is getting value from our data. As a company, we literally spend millions every year collecting data from all of our plants so that we can, as a result of the production process. But until we use analytics to gain insights into that data that we can then turn into value, the data is worthless. And we need to create that capability everywhere across Saint-Gobain, enabling all of our people to get value out of data. And so that is why we created this program. We started in manufacturing because an opportunity that I'll tell you about in a second presented itself there. And it turned out to be an excellent place, at least for us, to start. So the goal was build a durable data and analytics capability in the plants. Not something where we came in and we trained and 6 months later, they're not doing anything different. We wanted to transform what they were doing and to do it by upskilling the people in the plants. And because we recognized it was a transformation program, this was not just done by Saint-Gobain University to the businesses. We had all of the people, all of the different elements who needed to come together to make this transformation happen, part of the core team. And that includes Saint-Gobain Research, our technical and industrial performance group, and our IT organization. So how did it begin? Well, it began by people from McKinsey inviting us to visit Tata Steel in the Netherlands, where they had done a program like this themselves. And Claire Pedini, our global HR director and head of digital transformation programs at Saint-Gobain, and my former boss, Joanna Chinchpahoviak, who used to head up Saint-Gobain University and was the HRD for high performance materials, they went and made the visit and came back convinced that we could do something similar at Saint-Gobain. And so they came back and they brought together me and my partner, Kevin Amatepe, who was an Industry 4.0 leader for one of our businesses, to lead this program, to lead the development of this program. And over the summer, Kevin and I started thinking about how we would make it work at Saint-Gobain and issuing the RFP to find a provider, while Joanna and Claire were going around the business convincing directors that this was something that we should be doing and finding the money, because we did not have the money reserved for this and nobody wanted to wait another year to get it into the annual budget. And by the 7th of October, we launched the project fully funded and with our senior leaders on board. Right away, we went out and started visiting the 11 plants that were going to be part of our pilot. We had decided over the summer that we needed to reach, plants in different businesses and across different countries to prove that it could work. So we went to visit them, and we went for several reasons. One, they were volunteering for this, and we wanted to make sure they knew what they were getting into because we had high demands on them. Two, we wanted to make sure that we knew what the skills were in the plants and what the real problems were that the plants were trying to solve with data analytics so that we could design a program that was effective for them. And we came back, finished the building of it, and began rolling it out a little bit more than 6 weeks after we started, when we began the first pilots in Poland, and then later in February 2020 in France. And those of you who are attentive to details will realize that about a month after we launched France, we were all went into confinement for COVID, which dramatically changed how we delivered the program. So very, very fast. What did we build? We built a program based on 3 components: an awareness training, a core skills training, and a learn by doing project. Let me start with core skills because that's the heart of what we were doing. This is the program that would help engineers in the plants acquire the skills of using Python programming and machine learning to get value out of their data. A very intensive program, 9 times 3 hours, and where we took them through the full life cycle of a DNA project, and they did hands-on activities with all of the exercises to show them how to use these techniques. The core skills program is followed by a mandatory learn by doing project, because the only way we really learn something like this is by doing it ourselves on a real project that matters to us. And so it's mandatory that the plant commit to putting these people on a learn by doing project that has real value for the plant inside the plant. You'll notice that plant participation is completely voluntary, but we have a very high set of requirements that we expect of those plants to deliver. And then we have the awareness training, which of course is for management to make sure that management is aware of this opportunity and what's going on. So 3 key components. Let me talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail. The awareness training was a full day of training. It's now 2 times 3 hours of virtual classroom training. You see the agenda on the right. What we want to do is make sure that these managers and very senior leaders, our full, COMEX and all the levels down, have all been through this training, the full 6 hours, which is not easy to make them do. We want to make sure they understand the opportunity and the challenge that's presented by data analytics, that they understand what the life cycle of a project is and who are the key roles and when are they involved. Often that demystifies an area that is uncertain for them and that causes hesitation, and they come out of the workshop much better understanding, how to run these projects. We want to make sure that they understand the full life cycle and all of the steps, and that we also demystify machine learning, which can seem scary and unapproachable to many people. And so the workshop achieves that objective. So we do that in 2 times 3 hours. The core skills program, much more intensive. It was 5 full days, so 40 hours. When we turned it into virtual, we made it into 9 modules of 3 hours. And as I said, we take people through all of the steps of the DNA project lifecycle, and at each step, they have exercises they have to do in Python with these new machine learning algorithms, where they see it and they do it and they touch it. The core skills is taught by our data scientists from our research centers. It's a very intense program, exhausting, and people come out of it, I would say, a little bit fearful about what's being expected of them, right? And we try to demystify that, but it's a very demanding program. And then they go into the Learning by Doing project, which typically takes, I said here 2 to 6 months. That's not really true. It's more like 4 or 5 months to 9 months. I'll talk about that in a second. And again, here, what they're doing is they're taking a real project that has been identified by the plants from the world-class manufacturing roadmap that every plant has. But it's a program that's well adapted to data analytics. It's not too ambitious, so it's something that these people who are just learning can do. The intent is to reinforce the skills taught in core skills, and they must engage a data scientist from one of our data centers to provide coaching support to the team. It is not possible for them after the core skills to be able to deliver a project like this on their own. They need to be coached and guided through this process. But in the end, they are successful in delivering these programs. The overall timeline takes about 9 months, let's say, from start to finish. In fact, a little bit more, because we're usually, talking with plants for about 2 months before plant management begins going through the awareness training. And then their engineers, who they've carefully selected, go through the core skills training. And then we have the Learning by Doing project. And it takes that length of time, as you see here. I'm showing 7 months on this particular example. Often because even though we've been collecting data, but we've never really used it, it takes a long time to actually get the data and make it available to the teams to work with, and then to do the key steps of cleaning and structuring. So an ambitious program with those 3 key components. Today we have, I'm trying to go to the next slide, and it does not appear to be moving for me. No, I'm not able to move the slide forward now. If anybody can help me with that. I don't know why. Okay, very good. So we're on the next slide. So today we've trained 1,800 people in this program. 414 of them are engineers. We've got 90 plants on board, so a very quick pace. 90 plants may seem like nothing compared to the 800 plants we have around the world, but it's the old Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of our plants represent 80% of our manufacturing capacity, and so we're starting with those plants. And you see here the rhythm of the program, which is we're doing about 2 or 3 awareness sessions every month, and about 1.5 core skills, or 1.5 cohorts start every month in core skills. So a lot of coordination, a lot of engineers that need to be put into place. If you could move to the next slide, because I'm still unable to do that. So on the next slide, you'll see here that what's really rewarding to us is not just the numbers of people who have taken the program, but the feedback that we've been getting from them. If you could move to the next slide, please, because I am unable to make it move forward. Okay, so it just moved forward. Maybe I did it with the cursor. Okay, I think maybe it's my mouse that doesn't react. Okay, so the feedback from people has been really positive. I mean, you know, to hear somebody saying this is the training I've been waiting for. This has been one of my favorite trainings, you know, in the last couple of years. This is going to completely change my work. When you're, you know, talking about building competencies and skills in people, those are the kind of feedbacks that you wanna hear. So important numbers and important feedback. How did we deliver the program? So our goal was to bring about a sustainable, durable change in our plants. And we knew that you don't achieve that through training. You achieve it through transformation programs. And so we set up and organized ourselves to achieve that transformation. On the core project team were people from all parts of the business that needed to be involved in creating the solution. Saint-Gobain research, technical and industrial performance, our IT people. We also had a steering committee that included leaders from all of these businesses and an advisory committee of about 20 people that included IT people, data scientists, and engineers from our plants. And we adopted a very fast, agile approach to delivering this. Fail fast, learn fast, win fast was very much how we were doing. So everything was at speed. Kevin and I felt like every week felt like a month in terms of work for those first 9 months. So very rapid development, constant iteration and improvement. When we first went up to Poland and ran the first awareness workshop, it was pretty poor. But we got into a van at 6 o'clock that night, drove 4 hours to the next plant where we were going to be running it the next day. 6 of us in the back of the van making improvements to the course. And the next day, the course was much better. The day after that, much better than that. And so just constant improvement, constant learning from our feedback. And we also deployed it not like a training program where we put it into the LMS and we said, come sign up. It was pushed down through the business, through the operational side of our business. So our technology and industrial performance leadership is the organization that is responsible for the performance excellence of all of our plants across all of our businesses around the world. And the key person in that organization for every BU is the industrial director. And it was the industrial directors who identified which plants were the best ones to start with, met with them, briefed them on the program, sold them on the idea, got their commitment to participate. And today they have a 2 to 3 year plan of the timing of when they plan on onboarding which plants around the world. And that list obviously keeps getting updated as the world around us changes with COVID and the supply chain issues that we're confronted with today. But we drove it out through the business. The plant participation is voluntary, but we're very demanding about what we expect from them. We want them to be committed to the program for their plant. And what that means is that they're committed to making sure the prerequisites are in place around data collection and around the infrastructure readiness, that they identify the learning by doing project before people go on core skills training, that they themselves and their management team attend the awareness training, and that they're committed to continuing the program after this first learning by doing project is completed, and that they're committed to the participants. And this is really important because, as I said, it's demanding on the participants. So they have to select the right people. That was not always the case the first time through. You don't put people onto this program just because they're not busy. It has to be engineers who are going to be working with data to improve our industrial performance. They need to be briefed. They may need to do a Python pre-work course to get up to speed. They have to be given the time to do the learning, to learn outside the program, and then to work on the learning by doing project. And the plant needs to engage a data scientist from Saint-Gobain research to provide the coaching. And that means they have to pay for the time of that engineer. I'll mention just briefly that this program has no direct charge to the plants, at least at this time. Next year, we're going to start charging a nominal fee. One of our objectives was to be able to deliver this training on our own. The great people from McKinsey helped us during the pilot phase. And then after that, my colleague Kevin and I, together with the data scientists that we had been preparing for this, have been delivering all of the training. We originally thought that we would do everything in English. And so we had a train the trainer program that was based on, essentially watching one, co-leading one, and then leading one. But we learned from the very first time up in Poland that it needed to be in the local language. No matter how good people's language skills were, it required that it be in the local language. The concepts are just too abstract. So we have been aggressively building a multilingual collection of data scientists around the world who can do this training, and we continue to invest in that. So what have we achieved? Well, we have the plants who have gone through this have been successful at delivering projects that work on these 5 key benefit drivers: reducing energy consumption, reducing excess material consumption when we manufacture products, improving quality and therefore reducing waste, minimizing changeover time from when you stop producing product A and you start producing product B. All of that time produces waste. And then generally just increasing our operational efficiency by making data more visible and available to operators on the plant floor to ad hoc resolve issues. And the result from the managers of the plants is that they're doing these projects from their world-class manufacturing roadmap, but faster and better and with a better ROI than they had ever done it before. The benefits are not just cost savings. There are also important savings in terms of the environment, reducing our CO2 production, reducing our energy consumption. There are important benefits around people. The people who are trained and who go through this program feel incredibly proud of what it is they've achieved, that they're blazing this trail in data and analytics for Saint-Gobain, and that they're helping Saint-Gobain achieve our objectives around sustainability and the environment. And also, the data is revealing new insights about our own manufacturing processes. So it's literally, improving the understanding and skills of all of our engineers in the plants by what the data reveals. That by itself is a whole fascinating topic. So where are we going now with this program going forward, right? It's 2 years into it. We've trained 1,800 people. So a couple of things. One is we're moving from a push mode into a pull mode. Already the awareness training has been on our LMS for the last year in open enrollment. There's no charge, there's no manager validation. And that's why we literally have, about 100 people every time we run these sessions. On the plant side, it's very much a pull rather than a push. The industrial directors have the plants clamoring to be in the program. And it's really a question of timing and just sort of the capacity of the whole system to be able to onboard more and more plants. And then finally, we have countries that want to take a more operational role in this. And so they're creating what we're referring to as DNA hubs, where they've hired their own data scientists. They're able to run the training themselves. They have a much better view of the local economics, the priorities of the plants within their country, and so they're making all those decisions. This is a model that is working extremely well and something which I am pushing other countries to follow around the world. So we've done it in Brazil. We're in the process of doing it in Poland and Mexico, the same in North America, and a few other countries around the world are on my to-do list. We're also trying to get the business units to take now that we have the capability, a more strategic view on the types of projects that we should be doing. To date, the plants are choosing their own projects from their WCM roadmap. But what we've challenged the plants to do is to identify 2 or 3 high value added DNA projects that they think are applicable to every plant, and therefore they start to organize for replicability so that we start getting, savings when we do it the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th time. And you see here some of the key points that we are advising them to do. So we're trying to address now that first key component of the the foundations of transformation there, which is the strategic roadmap. We're also trying to do more around community building of the people who've already been trained. You see on the left, we use teams for this whole program. We have one team space for all of the core skills participants, a private channel for each cohort that goes through this, and public channels where they can all change and collaborate themselves. On the right side, you see that we've just launched a webinar program literally every week, and we have about 150 people who participated in the first couple. And the idea is just to give people opportunities to share little chunks of insights from some of their projects that would benefit other people around the world. And we're going to do more of that. The program started in manufacturing, but what we are doing today is rolling it out or adapting it for supply chain and sales and marketing. So you see here, we are starting with the 3 fundamental pillars of delivering value to customers, which is manufacturing, supply chain, and sales and marketing. The support functions of finance, purchasing, HR, we will get to a little bit later. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we started with manufacturing because that was where Tata was. And it turned out to be the ideal spot for us to start. And that's because we have, engineers in the plants, they have rigorous world-class manufacturing processes in place, and they, every day of their work lives, they're focusing on improving the performance of the plant. So what we were doing was essentially giving them new tools to do what they'd always done. That is less the case for supply chain and for sales and marketing. Now, my colleague Kevin is focusing on supply chain. I'm focusing on sales and marketing. The world of sales and marketing is very different. It's a much broader set of use cases that need to be addressed. We want to try to keep the same model of awareness, core skills, and the learning by doing project, but it's not going to be exactly the same. So for supply chain, I have been rolling out I'm attentive to time. For supply chain, we've rolled out awareness over the last couple of months, and the core skills is going to take more of an a la carte approach, not this one big solution for everybody. And we're going to start off with some basic fundamentals like teaching Power BI, and then we're also going to have master classes on particular use cases such as churn management. So quickly before I open it up for questions, lessons learned. When you're doing a program like this, think transformation and not training. I think I've mentioned this enough because it changes completely what you're going to do. Have the courage to adapt whatever you're hearing from the outside, whatever I'm telling you, to the specifics of your company, because every company is going to be different and you've got to design it in a way that works for your company. Adapt agile, because you will never be able to do this perfectly right from the first time. Better to get something out there fast, learn fast from it, and react. As I said, get all of the parties inside working to develop the solution rather than on the outside criticizing you. And then this next one about selling to senior leaders first and training them first. This was really important to us. And I'm somebody that always historically has kind of said, well, let's just do it in the grassroots and it'll work its way up. But for a program like this, it was essential to sell it to very senior management right from the start. And of course, if you can't sell it to them, then that should raise some warning bells. There's something that's not being addressed successfully. By training them first, it had the benefit that very quickly they were talking about this to everybody around them, and that's one of the great leadership changes that needs to happen for a transformation program. The DNA Academy started appearing on all of our corporate presentations as a significant strategic initiative we were working on. And then finally, every plant had real use cases and enough data already that they could get value from. So often you'll hear people say, oh, I don't have the data to do anything. We've got to collect it for the next year. We didn't have any cases of that. And then finally, make sure that those initial learning by doing projects are successful, right? So it's a major focus for us. So that's about that program. What about corporate learning? Well, this is the only program that I've ever seen in my career where corporate learning came to the business and said, we have this problem at our company, right? And we think this is the right approach to go, and we need your funding to deliver this, and we need your leadership to make it happen. This is an example of L&D and HR being at the table, being a partner with the business, leading, right? And that's, we need to be doing more of that. And this is an example that demonstrates that it can be done. And what we did was within L&D, we didn't focus on building a training program and rolling it out and counting the numbers of people. We focused on the change we needed to achieve and how to get there. We were definitely pushing the organization faster than the organization was comfortable doing, and I think that was a good thing, get people unstable. And finally, combining myself from L&D with my colleague Kevin from Industrial Performance really helped make us successful. So that is what I wanted to share with you today, and I'll open it up for questions. I hope I haven't taken too much time.
No, Bart, you're doing good. Thank you so much. We don't have any questions yet in the chat. So if you want to go to Q&A, we're ready to take some of your questions. But in the meantime, Bart, I was really interested in hearing a bit more about the choice for cohorts, right? Like, I think you decided from the very beginning to do it in cohorts. And there's a lot to be said about cohort learning and that ability to contribute and to grow together. Did you consider that to be a benefit of the program?
Well, I believe it to be essential for reaching the types of people that we're reaching. I'm one of these lifelong learners, and so nobody needs to hold my hand through learning, but I know that I'm the exception. And for people who are, every day, especially people in the plants, they don't have time to sort of, go and do e-learning, right? And so you've got to pull them out of their day-to-day job and put them into a classroom setting. And even though this is all virtual training now, it's in their agenda, and they attend it faithfully. So I'm a strong believer that for, transformational programs, you've got to manage it through cohorts. And our cohorts are generally about 30 people, for example, for each one of these.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bart. We've had one question come through. It says, I'm curious about the need to translate the program. Was it a challenge to translate all training material, especially in terms of obtaining the funding for translation?
Oh, no. Translation in our company is generally pretty easy because we do it ourselves. We don't tend to send it out. But we did not translate the material. We just had instructors using English language slides, but speaking in Polish or speaking in Portuguese. We did have, for our Spanish colleagues, we did translate it. And I'll be honest with you, I found an online site that translates PowerPoints and preserves the format, and the quality of the translation was outstanding. And our instructors then took those results that literally took 15 minutes to generate. And as they're preparing, they were making the wording corrections to the slide. So it was a very efficient process, but we've only done it for Spanish.
Fantastic. Yeah, that use of artificial intelligence is something that we're seeing more and more in terms of translation. Yeah. We have another one. Will you continue to deliver virtual training once the in-person training is possible again? And did you see benefit in breaking it down into 9 3-hour sessions rather than 5 days core skills training?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. Yes, our net promoter score and the feedback went up when we switched to virtual training, and we were shocked by that.
Wow.
We literally, Kevin and I, unfortunately, came into contact with somebody who was COVID positive, and so we were literally walked off the premises in the middle of the training session, and or between two training sessions. It was the end of one day. And so the next day we were live, but we were virtual. Fortunately, we'd been rolling teams out within the company. And so we kept the full day format, which is very intense, even in a classroom setting, and even harder in virtual. And the feedback was better at the end of that day. And we think the reason is this was for core skills, and that people felt more secure in the comfort of sort of their home or even their office, where the instructor wasn't walking behind them and looking at their screen and whatever. They were able to make mistakes on their own without fear. We used breakout rooms heavily. So when they did the coding exercises, they went into small breakout rooms of 5 or 6 people with one data scientist accompanying them, and it worked much better. But then we were able to redesign it because we were freed up from the logistics constraints of getting everybody into a hotel and whatever. And we decided quite quickly on 9 times 3 hours, but we did it 5 days in week 1 and 4 days in week 2. And then we started getting feedback from people saying Monday and Fridays are terrible days in the plants. Can't we just do it Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays? And so now we settled on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, week 1, week 2, and week 5. We give them 2 weeks off between the week 2 and week 5 to practice what they've learned. There's a good design reason for keeping that gap.
We're spacing them out.
I feel very strongly that the power of virtual learning is it allows us more flexibility to deliver something that works better for our people. And no, we will not be going back to classroom training when COVID is fully past.
Thanks, Bart. I'll ask one last question. We have several good ones, but as we have to be moving on to the next presentation, let me just finish with this one. How did you manage the fear of the expectations after the transformation, what you spoke of? I think you said demystifying it.
I think you're referring to the fears of the engineers in the plants about what was going to be expected of them. And what we would do is we would double back and we would talk to management and say, you have to reassure people about what the proper expectations are. And then also Kevin and I join the end of every cohort, and I explicitly tell them, this is what your plant has committed to doing. You should be having this, you should be having that. If you have any issues, you reach out to Kevin and I. We are not setting you up to fail. So in general, we haven't had many problems with that, but it is demanding and it is tiring. And I have a quote there. I think I didn't read it out, but somebody said, at points we were really, really low, but we kept pushing through and we were successful and we're really proud.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bart. We have several more questions that we're not going to be able to get to, but we'll make sure that Bart gets them, and maybe, Bart, you can reach out to
if you can share them with me, I'll give you a written answer. That would be great.
That's amazing. Thank you, Bart, for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, and very happy to share. And if anybody wants to reach out to me for more information, don't hesitate. Thanks.
Cheers, Bart. Thank you so much.